Live from News Channel 8 in Tampa, Florida, this is Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now. Powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY.
A robbery at Raymond James Stadium, a fourth quarter heist as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pull off an improbable division win against the New Orleans Saints, solidifying their chances to win the NFC South. Today, we're talking about that improbable win and looking ahead to the upcoming pivotal challenge that awaits the Bucs in San Francisco. Hello there, folks. JB here with you again with Dan Lucas, Karen Loftus, our Bucs insiders on WFLA News Channel 8, your official Bucs station. Bucs Bonus, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. As we look here at your Week 13 recap, oh, so close was this being to this. This was nearly a disaster for the Buccaneers and largely outplayed over the majority of this matchup against the Saints. So you're thinking probably, if you're watching this game, you're thinking, here we go again. Another loss to the Saints. And then somehow, some way, the Buccaneers pull a white rabbit out of the hat and escape with a victory. And I'm going to send things over to Dan and Karen for just a second. But first, I want to go to this NFL Next Gen Stats powered by AWS.
What you got, JB? What you got?
All right, we're going to open with a stat here. I'm going to read this. This is from their Twitter. Trailing 16-3 with 5.5 minutes remaining in the game, the Buccaneers had a 0.7% chance of winning. The Buccaneers' late game comeback goes down as the fourth most improbable of the Next Gen Stats era, going back to 2016.
Wow, I'm glad you found that. It puts it in perspective because, like, you can explain the game to somebody, but again, we've talked about I'm a numbers person. That's impressive.
Less than a 1% chance with 5 minutes to go in the game. So I ask you both, and Karen, why don't we start with you this week? Did the Buccaneers deserve to win this game, in your opinion?
I feel like when you're talking about the NFL, and I don't know if I'm dodging this question or not, I don't think it matters if you deserve to win or not. Like, they won the game, period.
A win is a win.
A win is a win. And if you talk about, like, deserving something, who played better when it came down to crunch time? Who executed when they needed to? Who got the stops on defense when they needed to? Who moved the ball on offense when they needed to? So if you're playing well at the end, it sort of doesn't matter what happened before.
Because for 57 minutes, it seemed like the Buccaneers were getting destroyed. And then the final, really, 3+, it was a completely different story.
Well, I know a lot of people turn the channel at some point during the night. And at least if you're at home, you could check your phone and go, oh, maybe I should turn this back, so you were able to see it. I also know a number of folks who were at the game who said the seats around them emptied. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of people, I won't say a lot, there were quite a number of people who missed what took place in the final 3 minutes and plus in that game. And if you were, especially for those who were at the game, obviously when you go to a sporting event, you never know what you're going to see. I've been to a no-hitter before, but that is something you'll never forget. And I can't recall anything like that in games at Ray J involving the Bucs, where the Bucs did that at the very end of the game. Now, last year in the playoffs against the Rams, they had a great comeback, and then it was just snatched from them at the last second by the big Cooper Kupp play. But that was, I mean,
it was special.
Yeah,
right?
All you have to do is pull up the play-by-play, the drive charts, and it's punt, 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 interception, punt, another turnover, punt, punt. It was a disaster until those final two drives. Beautiful at the end, and it's the bottom line. As Dirk Cutter said to me once, he goes, "What's the object of the game?" And I don't even remember what I told him. And he goes, "No. The object is to finish with at least one more point than the opponent."
And what do we have here?
You're looking at it here.
That's all you need.
This is the example he was trying to cite to me, and this is it. So take it and go with it, because I can tell the Saints have their perspective as well coming off that. They win that game, they're now in the division race, right behind the Falcons, tapping the Bucs on the shoulder. That was a big loss for the Saints.
It was. Yeah. I mean, it was just absolutely wild.
You have no idea.
Speechless. Everybody like looking at each other.
I'm watching this game. This is Wednesday today, by the way. So this happening on Monday Night Football 2 nights ago. I am watching this game, and grinding my teeth, ready for this show to talk to you guys about how disappointing the Buccaneers were on Monday Night Football on the, really on national television, because I'm watching this game, and let's give full credit. I'll speak for myself. Full credit to the Saints defense was smothering. The Saints defense was playing very, very special football, and Andy Dalton looked really good. I mean, everyone knocks Andy Dalton, of course, for his time spent with the Bears and previous other franchises, including the Bengals, and there's plenty of memes out there about Andy Dalton. But I mean, he had a lot of receivers let him down, even though the Bucs defense was playing fantastic. Yeah. The Saints came to play, and they did, but it was the Buccaneers that pulled it out. As we look here at your Week 13 recap, Tom Brady with stats that are starting to look very, very consistent week to week. He's usually in the 200, 300-yard range, couple touchdowns. That's kind of what we're starting to expect from him. He's been relatively consistent from a stat standpoint. Yeah. Leonard Fournette actually, I think, was slightly above Rashad White in the carries, but it was Rashad White who had the big game-changing score. Yeah. So we'll talk a little bit about the running game here in just a second. Chris Godwin continuing to get a lot of looks from Tom Brady, 8 receptions for 63 yards. K. Dotton picking up another touchdown early on in his NFL career. But let's talk about the running game. Leonard Fournette looked pretty good, in my opinion, on Monday Night Football. And now we were talking about this a little bit last week, Dan and Karen, about how it's like with both of them being healthy, when they're both healthy, it is going to likely be a two-headed monster between Lenny Fournette and Rashad White as we head into the stretch run and into the playoffs.
I think when we know where this is headed. This is the eventual handover to Rashad White at some point. That was always the plan. But right now, in 2022, Rashad White needs Leonard Fournette and vice versa. And when Fournette was a scratch in the Cleveland game the week before, I think it made a world of difference in the wrong way. And in this game, and I know the Bucs offense had its struggles, but Fournette was just his game was so well-rounded. He was the check down guy. On the stats, you have him as 81 total yards. The total yards is everything. Yeah. So that's down and dirty. That's a role-playing back who's catching, who's blocking, a couple of good runs. And White's game was mostly the run, but that one beautiful short pass at the end for the touchdown. White also had to mentally get through a turnover of his own in that game that was costly. And that's one of the reasons that finish was so magical, because of the people who were involved in that. And the course of a game, the ebbs and flows, and fans who have been Bucs fans for a long time, you see games like that as they progress. Not so long ago, there's no way the Bucs are winning that game. No way.
But what's the difference now? They have some guy named Tom
Brady who has rubbed off on the huddle
immensely,
in the locker room, to the point where we'll go down the road after Tom Brady. I don't know who the quarterback will be, but there will be similar situations where the remaining veterans on that team might will whoever that quarterback is through it. They've been there. They've now done it.
NFL record 44th fourth quarter comeback for Tom Brady.
Unreal.
And asking them in the locker room, like I asked Mike Evans after, I was like, does everybody just think you guys have a chance? Because Akeem Hicks said it first. He was like, I was talking to our guys on the sideline watching Tom Brady and said, if we have Tom Brady, we have a chance. And
Exactly.
Mike Evans was like, absolutely.
Right.
He said he's one of those guys that just elevates in those moments. You talk about being a clutch player, clutch gene. Logan Ryan was talking about that. Who has that? There's closers. And Logan Ryan said he prides himself on that. And then you look at Tom Brady, and he definitely has those attributes of being a clutch player and just knows how to execute when the stakes are the highest.
I was quick Tuesday talking to Todd Bowles, and also on News Channel 8, I made sure to cover properly the play by Keanu Neal when the Bucs score with K. Dotton. The Saints get the ball back. They have a 3rd and long. Essentially, the pass is beautiful from Dalton to Taysom Hill. Keanu Neal just plows the football out for an incompletion, forcing a punt. And then that set the stage for for what the entire nation was talking about the next day. But I did not want Keanu Neal's play to go unnoticed.
Oh, absolutely.
Or forgotten. As Bowles told me, if Neal doesn't make that play, the game is over. They don't even get the ball back, let alone a chance to have that magical finish.
Yeah.
So the defense, as you said, you mentioned it, JB, the defense wasn't bad. They held the Saints to field goals.
Really shut down Alvin Kamara.
Kind of like that 9-0 loss last year, that we're calling a debacle. I'm like, but the Bucs defense didn't allow a touchdown. And as a matter of fact, that game, remember, was 6-0 much of the night. One score, one touchdown, the Bucs win that game, 7-6. So this was a similar night where the defense just gave the offense a chance.
Exactly.
And they took it. They took it. Magical. If you went to the game, good on you.
And if you stayed to the end, good on you.
And if your neighbors left the game, just give it to them. Every time you guys are cooking out or whatever, just give it to them.
I like how you said that you didn't want Keanu Neal's game-changing play to go unnoticed because it's so easy to get caught up in the drive that capitalized or ended with Rashad White's touchdown. In my notes, I had a big circle around this one moment in the game, and it was Todd Bowles' decision on 4th and 10 in the fourth quarter to punt, when you could hear the boos at Raymond James Stadium when Tom Brady was coming off the field. The crowd clearly wanted Brady going for it on 4th and 10, but they were in there. I don't know exactly where they were on the field. They were closer to their end zone than they were the Saints' end zone.
Yeah, I think they were closer to 30. I remember the scenario, and that's, you know what that is? That's tuning out the noise.
That is.
And going with your gut. And also, he also followed that up by saying, he knew they were going to get they would get a stop and get the ball back.
Having trust in your defense.
Yeah.
He said that multiple times this season, Todd Bowles. He's like, I trust our defense, period.
And it's so awesome in that moment to see a bold stretch. Because, of course, it's so easy to go with the crowd and the momentum of the game. And having Tom Brady, and you want him to just, command the offense down the field and get a score on the board. But my goodness, a big call by Todd Bowles, a big play by Keanu Neal, but it all capitalized in a fourth quarter game or lead-taking touchdown for Tom Brady, Rashad White, and your Tampa Bay Buccaneer offense. Let's flip things over. We're going to open up the call lines again, you guys, and take a call.
Oh, is this guy calling again?
We are.
Is this guy calling again?
We have one caller on the line. We have one caller. Why don't we first, before we go to the caller, I want to bring up our injury spotlight for this week. And we're going back to a player that has actually been on our injury watch here on Bucs Bonus in previous weeks. Yet again, we're talking about Antoine Winfield Jr. And I'm watching this Saints game, and I'm really... when I'm watching this defense on the field, clearly stopping the run was no problem for Vita Vea, Akeem Hicks, the entire defensive front shut down the runs. The Saints run game. Mm-hmm. The secondary, though, is different when Antoine Winfield Jr. is not out there. He is a transformational sort of talent back there. What's the latest that we're hearing about Winfield Jr., if anything at all? I mean, is it just kind of, is it radio silence?
He was on the field for practice Wednesday and he was limited, correct?
Yeah, I'm looking right now to see if they have it posted.
He was limited. I've gone back and forth on this, and I've said he's the best player on the defense, and I'm going to stand by it, but I think the most important player on the defense, as we found out, is Akeem Hicks. And to have both of them on the field will be just a tremendous gain. And Winfield comes in, left the Cleveland game for a little bit, came back in, and with the concussion, you're just worried to death about everything that goes with that. But I know he's nursing something.
It's an ankle now.
Okay, so he's bent.
Ankle
so guys,
injury now.
But so many defensive backs got banged up in that Cleveland game.
Yeah.
That I didn't know who was in and who was out. So when Logan Ryan comes back, that's almost like picking up a free agent.
That was huge midweek, that he came back.
And Keanu Neal being healthy, that they're getting anybody on the field at all. Mm. So this is and the Saints had issues on their defensive backfield as well. They were missing their great linebacker Werner and Marshawn Lattimore, who we talked about all week.
I know, and then
one of the storylines. He's actually missed a number of games.
He's been out for 2 months.
Yeah, he's got some issue. The abdominal injury.
Yeah.
I'll speculate. I think of Steven Stamkos and the core injury he went through, where he felt totally normal until he tried to do anything athletic, and he's excruciating. I don't know what Lattimore's dealing with, but it's got to be something that is hampering him when he starts to work out or do something, because he's one of the best in the league.
You know what, though?
You're not going to keep him off the field.
We didn't really talk about a lot made on the broadcast on Monday Night Football with Joe Buck and Troy Aikman on the call about this disconnect or the inability for the Buccaneers to get Mike Evans the football. That was without Marshawn Lattimore out there. So that's a storyline, I think, to watch in the weeks ahead as to whether or not you get Mike Evans going again, because the Bucs just look different when he's out there. Just kind of a sidebar on Mike Evans and Marshawn Lattimore.
In fairness, though, I think that Dennis Allen is the guy. For whatever it is, he has this magic against the Bucs, game planning against the Bucs. Remember, in the regular season, this hasn't been the best series for the Bucs for the better part of 6-7 years now. So it's tough sledding against the Saints defense, which, by the way, I think is terrific, led by Cam Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
They always go after Evans in that way, and it forces you to find other avenues in the passing game. So do other opponents pick up on that? We'll see. But, yeah, you're right. Evans was a non-factor. Did he make a catch? He made a catch in the first half late.
Correct.
And that was it.
It was pretty slim.
Yeah,
he hasn't had a touchdown since week 4.
Yeah.
He had the touchdowns in like the first 3 games that he played in, and then hasn't had one since the Chiefs game.
Wow.
It's
which
so
is unfathomable almost that
bizarre.
Mike Evans hasn't had a touchdown since the Chiefs game.
Yeah, totally weird. Something we'll keep an eye on. But let's go to the phone lines now. I'll leave our mics open. We're going to leave the mics open because we do have one caller. Only one caller on the line.
I'm ready for it this week.
I wonder who it is.
Oh, JB, this is Buck of Fire Burt. Hey, look, I just want to let you know about the Saints last week. They marched in. They was looking for a win. But I promise you, what I told you last week, we're going to take it to them. They did what we had to do to win the game. You know, Tom Brady hit them in the mouth and proved to them that the Buccaneers are the new king of the South. Now, I'm done with them. Let's move on to the 49ers. The 49ers don't have their quarterback this week. And we're going to their house, and we're going to rearrange their furniture and win a game right there in 49 in California. I promise you, they got the quarterback named Mr. Irrelevant. Nobody had any footage on him, but we got footage on him this week, and my defense going to take it to him. Get ready, boy. The Buccaneers going to win 2 in a row. Bye.
Man, Buck of Five, Bert. And I don't know if you heard that. He said, we're going to go in there and rearrange their furniture.
Yeah.
Man.
They're Levi's. They're Levi's.
Leave it to Buckified Bert to get you amped up for our Week 14 preview. The Buccaneers going into the Bay Area to take on not Jimmy G, not Trey Lance, but Mr. Irrelevant and the 8-4 San Francisco 49ers. It's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers now at 6-6, a 500 record, with a 4:25 kickoff on Fox. The 49ers open, as of this broadcast, a 3.5-point favorite at home against Brady and the Buccaneers. We'll go over our key storylines here in a second. Karen, why don't we start with you? Just what's the big storyline ahead of this matchup when you're looking at it on paper?
So I know the quarterback seems to be the obvious thing with Jimmy Garoppolo going out, but I was looking at just some of their numbers from the 49ers, and their defense is very, very good. They lead the league in least amount of points allowed, least amount of rush yards, least amount of total yards. They're a very, very good team led by Nick Bosa, who leads the NFL with 14.5 sacks. And, that's just something that is going to be very, very challenging, especially since we've been talking so much about this Bucs offense, trying to figure out ways to score points. So that's going to be a tough challenge.
Yeah, and so we'll start there with our key storylines. Stopping Bosa and solving a very, very stout 49ers defense. You have to stop Bosa, Dan, and you have to do so again without Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs not expected back in Week 14, we can say with certainty, right? So we're talking about a banged-up offensive line And now you're going against one of the better defenses in football, and one of really the young stars in the league on the defensive side of the football. What's the strategy, Dan, for scoring points on this 49ers defense?
Well, you sort of have to locate where they put Bosa on the field. 14 and a half sacks. He's a one-man wrecking machine, changes games. The Bucs, I thought, did a pretty good job on Cam Jordan, all things considered, the other night. Josh Wells starting for Tristan Wirfs. Donovan Smith didn't have his best night, a couple of penalties. And Jordan got in there and disrupted some plays, but he didn't have his typical game against the Bucs that he usually he is a wrecking machine. So that gives me a little confidence for this offensive line against Bosa. But Bosa is terrific, and the 49ers defense is very, very fast. And so they're going to challenge the offensive line again. I think the way you beat it's the old textbook, just run the football and be effective if you can, which, as we know, has not been the forte of this offense, and it's something the 49ers are terrific against. But both defenses, by the way, very good against the run.
Yeah.
So, but the 49ers right now are the standard against the running game. So that's your screen passes. That's your passes to the tight ends to try and open it up a little bit. And then maybe you get something down the field to Godwin or Evans.
49ers in first place in the NFC West, despite the fact that they have had all of this uncertainty in this massive storyline all year long. Of course, the decision to go with Trey Lance over Jimmy Garoppolo being sort of that awkward elephant in the room to begin the year when Trey Lance goes down with this injury, is out for the year. Jimmy G now out for the year. And now our number 2 storyline on your screen, Purdy or not so Purdy. The Buccaneers
So clever, JB.
Thank you. Going up against Mr. Irrelevant. Let's start with this with Brock Purdy for a second. Not too shabby of an NFL debut. Beating the very, very good Miami Dolphins. Here are the numbers on him from Week 13. 25 of 37 passing, 210 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, and 1 INT. In the grand scheme of quarterback debuts, if you will, not too bad. And we're talking about, again, the person who went last in the NFL draft. So what's the game plan, Karen, against Purdy?
And I also want to point out that he came in on the second drive of the game. This isn't like
Right.
Jimmy G led him to the doorstep and he pushed him through. Like, dude came in the second drive of the game and was able to manage things.
And playing with a little bit of swag. I don't know if you saw the highlights, but he was feeling it out there and celebrating scores. I mean, didn't feel like a very tense or terrified rookie out there.
Honestly, it probably helps that they have such a good defense too. Well, granted, they have great weapons on offense, but also similar to the Bucs, it's like you have a lot of confidence if you know your defense is going to handle their job. They're not going to give up, 44 points and you have to score 45.
And now you have,
I think the difference
the Bucs
in
defense.
the Niners, where the Niners difference has been McCaffrey.
Oh, yeah.
Christian McCaffrey coming on board. He's done it all. I mean, the guy, I think he had a McCaffrey hat trick in one game. He ran a touchdown, caught a touchdown, and threw a touchdown. I don't know if that's such a thing. We might have just invented that.
Absolutely crazy.
A McCaffrey hat trick. Let's not see that. But the one thing I think the Bucs have going for them right now is they have film on Brock Purdy.
You just took that from Buckified Bird. That's what he said, man. We got film on him.
The Dolphins, a very good Dolphins team, who, by the way, the very first play of the game, I think they threw a 75-yard touchdown pass. And you're like, oh, boy. And, the Dolphins are a good team in the AFC East, of course. I don't know why teams struggle when they go out west. It's one of those things. But they beat a very good team, so it's eye-opening. They're 8-4 in a division that's falling apart around them. The Rams are a mess. So the 49ers are poised to win that division. Obviously, 8 wins. They win. They're over the hump with that 9th victory. I just think you go after Purdy. Just make his day miserable. Just keep going after him.
So the other thing, Todd Bowles was saying today that it doesn't really matter. Not that it matters, but he's like, we're not looking at the quarterback so much as the scheme. He's like, put whatever quarterback is in there. They've been running the same offense. So he's like, we're planning for the scheme, not necessarily the quarterback. And Will Golston said that today too. He's like, we need to stop the run and just, be prepared for what they bring as a team.
You can still look at tendencies of the man who, the individual. And it's not Garoppolo's not coming back. He might be back for the playoffs. I understand. Doesn't matter this week. So whatever you can see, if he's tipping a pass or the way he comes out, way he takes the snap, anything, these guys are good at picking up that kind of stuff.
Right.
At least now you've had a chance to see it. It doesn't mean you're going to succeed at it. I mean, Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, those guys.
I'm drawing a blank on the Panthers quarterback.
I'm some Panthers guy.
The Panthers quarterback. I'm drawing a blank on his name.
I mean,
but yeah, so it's
I don't know why they've done it to this defense. Jacoby Brissett, who's beaten them before with the Colts, I believe. Go after Purdy.
Yeah,
Brock Purdy's
I've been doing a little bit of research here. You guys ready for some mind-blowing stuff?
Oh, let's do it.
I know that this is the most overplayed storyline of the year when you're talking about, okay, Tom Brady was doing what when this person was born, but I'm going to give you this.
I'm here for it.
Okay,
I love those.
You ready for it? Okay, so Brock Purdy was born December 27th of 1999. He's 22. He is going to be 23 in just a couple of weeks. What was Tom Brady doing on December 27th, 1999? He was preparing for his bowl game, his final bowl game at Michigan, when he would go on to take down number 5 Alabama in the Orange Bowl on January 1st, 2000, when we had it literally Y2K and the millennium turned over. So that
Y2K.
That's right. We went there on Bucs Bonus. So Brock Purdy was 4 or 5 days old when Tom Brady was suiting up for his final bowl game ahead of getting drafted by the New England Patriots.
That means Purdy watched it then. He watched the game.
He was breathing by the time that
Exactly.
Brady was in that bowl game, and then would go on, of course, to an okay career with the Patriots. Just kind of okay career with the Patriots. Let's go ahead now and look ahead at our third and final storyline. You guys picked this one, and I want to give you guys the opportunity to explain in your words this rookie movement, the baby Bucs movement. We've talked on previous episodes about how impressive Cade Otton has been as far as being that receiving tight end, Keeft being the blocking tight end, Rashad White being the heir apparent to Leonard Fournette and this Buccaneers running offense. Is it old man Tom and the baby Bucs? Where is the transition between the Buccaneers that have led us to that Super Bowl victory 2 years ago, and now the youth movement that is kind of starting to surface here midway through this season?
Well, I think we're beginning to see what we will call, and you know how they say you can't judge a draft class till later in time. You're beginning to see a home run here from Jason Light, the GM, the way they pick these guys. I remember on draft weekend, they thought Rashad White was a steal, and they could not believe they were able to. I think they moved up a tad to get Cade Otton, and they moved up and got him. The one guy that we haven't heard much from was the guy they waited till day 2 to get, Logan Hall. I have to think that there's, that's part of a developmental plan for him. So he's not being relied upon and asked to do that much. But these other guys who were going to have roles, they're much bigger than the Bucs thought at first, in my opinion.
Because I think it came out of necessity.
Yeah.
With the injuries to the receivers room and just, we need production from somebody.
Right.
And we're going to go down our depth chart and we're going to see who's going to catch the ball from Tom Brady.
Right.
And if you catch it, we're going to keep coming to you. And they've gotten great reps. They've gotten meaningful reps and just in big moments. And that was something that I was talking to the guys in the locker room about today, like Rashad. I said, does this just build your confidence, these big moments, and getting the positive reinforcement from not only Tom Brady, but the other veterans? And he said, yes. He's like, that's incredible that you have the support from everybody around you. And I think we've seen that from Cade too.
I'd love to ask you both a question. This was on my mind after the game. I was watching post-game on ESPN when Rashad White caught the touchdown. There's you two being in the locker room and being around the Buccaneers and covering the Bucs. Again, we're your official Bucs Station, so we're always talking to players and coaches and getting this access to the Buccaneers. there seems to be when players and coaches talk about Rachaad White, there's something that lights up. And I've noticed it over the last several weeks. Leonard Fournette loves Rachaad White. Tom Brady loves Rachaad White. The coaching staff, other players really seem to say that there's something special about his makeup. What is it? Can you guys put your finger on it? What makes Rachaad White so special, not just as a ball carrier and as a talent, but also why he resonates so much in that locker room right now?
Well, I mean, it wasn't long ago Rachaad White was picking up Leonard Fournette on the bench, trying to get him a little bit motivated. Fournette was down in the dumps, and it was Rachaad White who got in there and said, let's go. I just think this is a young man whose story is tremendous. Mm-hmm. Comes out of high school, a 0-star recruit, goes to, I believe it was Nebraska Kearney. It's not a junior college, but like an NAIA type program, just to get to the next level, Mount San Antonio College in California. And then he's working jobs while he's playing football on the weekends. So he'd play, and then he'd go work a night shift. I believe it was in some warehouse. And then he winds up at Arizona State. And when he got there, people don't know who Rachaad White was. And he comes up, and he's one of the best running backs in the Pac-12. Then he goes into the draft, and all the ASU fans are going, hey, what happened to our guy? he was here for a cup of coffee. And so this is kudos to him as a man and to the Bucs personnel and scouting department for at some point locating him and his growth. I would have to presume it was when he was at Arizona State, but they're sniffing these guys out at the Mount Sac colleges and following them and trying to be quiet about it. He just fell right to them in a perfect spot.
Yeah. And I asked him about that today, and he said he credited his mom. He said, I was raised in a house where respect was paramount. So he said, I came into this locker room with the utmost respect for the veterans. And it was that idea of like, keep your head down, do your work, have respect for them, and earn their respect by your performance and the way you carry yourself. And he said, that's my mentality and how I've approached everything. And sure enough, here we are 12 games into the season. And from everything I've seen, he has everybody's respect. And even though I haven't asked, Cade and Co about that specifically, the way they carry themselves, and you can tell just like a humble spirit, like a meekness, and I mean that in the most positive way, that they approach things and work hard, ask a lot of questions. Shaq Mason was saying that Rashad asks him a lot of questions about their blocking, how to work with them. So like the hunger to learn, the respect for the veterans, and being able to execute. They're good players.
Yeah, I think it transcends industry, because even in the news industry or the sports broadcasting industry, you always have that person who is eager to learn and knows what their role is, and they just want to improve and get better. And I couldn't help. I wanted to ask you both about it because I couldn't help but notice that in interviews, just there's something that lights up on their faces when it's talking about Rachaad White, and it's clearly. I think you hit a home run there with what you were saying about Jason Light, because they're clearly evaluating players in a lot of different respects, both on the field and off. And Rachaad White has clearly earned the respect of the locker room. I want to ask you guys, too, as far as look, Brady and the Baby Bucs, another name that doesn't get brought up, I consider him to be part of the Baby Buck movement, is Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, somebody who didn't get a whole lot of playing time, but you have Jason Pierre-Paul depart, and he kind of steps into that role. You lose a guy like Shaq Barrett, even more important to get pressure on the quarterback when you have somebody like Tryon-Shoyinka. He's also part of that movement too. And he was considered when he was drafted. Remember, there was a lot of eyebrows raised about him going in the first round. There were people who looked at him as a project. It's going to take some years, but I think we're starting to see some flashes of what he's capable of too. He's had some moments. It's come and go over the course of the season, but that's another guy we don't talk about too much on this program, but also part of that youth movement for the Buccaneers going forward. Yeah,
I agree. And he's having a bit of a roller coaster year. And I remember the Seahawks game, he was wonderful. He was kind of quiet the other night.
He was.
I thought. Yeah. So that's a guy who needs to make an impact. And I think he's, like you said, he's learning on the job. He's got great mentors around him. And even now, that he was going to have a bigger role anyways, I still think he's being thrust into a little more than they wanted.
At this stage?
Well, losing Shaq Barrett on the other side of the ball from him, now he might be drawing more attention than he would have. That would allow him to flourish a little bit more. When Hicks was out of the interior part of the line, it drew more attention to Tryon. So
yeah, he has the physical attributes too, just the speed and the quickness. And the thing that I notice with him is his wingspan. Like his reach is crazy, which is somebody you want.
Kind of look like,
coming
JPP,
around the edge. Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm still holding my arms out just to emphasize the point.
If you're listening, let's go to the wide shot.
I'm holding my arms. I have a very long wingspan. Maybe it was like low-key me trying to show off my wingspan.
There you go.
But that's something that it just like stands out to me. And that's, I think, going to work to his benefit. As long as he stays fundamentally sound and all of those things, that's something that's just going to tool in his toolbox.
And then the one before we go on to our fantasy outlook for the week, the one other youth, the baby Buck, if you will, that I want to ask you guys about because he's no longer a Buccaneer, and that's Jalen Darden. Waived this week by the Buccaneers, considered by many to be a little bit eyebrow-raising just because of the timing of the decision. He was returning punts for the Buccaneers. What can you tell us about Jalen Darden and also, too, about how that impacts special teams going forward for the remainder of the year and into the playoffs?
Well, it was a curious move for sure. Todd Bowles was asked about it. His answer was around, saying they didn't see progress from him. And I'm not really sure how they're defining progress. Maybe he, didn't work his way up the depth chart as a receiver. Maybe he didn't break a punt for 40 yards. I don't know what they're looking for exactly because his numbers, it wasn't the most exciting thing when you watch Bucs games. I understand that, but he leads the NFL, and I'm not going to say past tense because I think he's going to find work pretty quick.
Oh, he landed with the Browns.
Okay, so he's with the Browns. He is the NFL leader in punt return yardage. Now the Bucs receive a lot of punts, so that's kind of goes into it. But he's in the top 10 on average yards per return. I think he's 7th or something like that, just over 10 yards a return. So if you're sitting there saying, oh, he gets the ball and he goes out of bounds all the time after 10, well, that's right around the high end on the average for all punt returners. So apparently returning punts in this day and age is difficult. So when you look at it from that sense, maybe he's not so bad at this. So I still, it's a little baffling to me.
So Bowles said that they're essentially having tryouts, if you will, to who's going to be the dude. He said Scotty and Gio were the two names he mentioned.
Yeah, completely different. I mean, we have a young wide receiver versus, Gio's, been around the block once or twice.
Injury report came out, by the way.
Oh, what do we have there?
So Cam Brate was back to full participation. He had an illness. Mike Edwards was out. Antoine Winfield was out. Tristan Wirfs, we know, was out. Sean Murphy, Bunting, and Vita Vea were limited.
SMB.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about him.
He's been injured.
Yeah, he didn't play the other night either. He was one of the Mike Edwards, Antoine Winfield, and Sean Murphy Bunting. Yeah. Yeah, this is a banged-up unit on the defense for sure. And it just frustrates the fans because all of them healthy, I think this team motors.
Yes.
And I know every NFL team's dealing with it. Saints dealt with it the other night. They're having issues on their defense. The 49ers just lost their quarterback. So you have to just get through it. And that's another reason why the win Monday night was that special. The Bucs figured it out. They just got through it. It's you're not doing it for style points here. We're not trying to get 10s from the judges.
Just one more point.
Just got to get one point more.
One more point,
Thank you,
Dan.
Dirk Cutter. Thank you for that one.
Literally
Exactly.
did. One more point. Again, before we go to your fantasy outlook, it makes you wonder what the Bucs could look like in that opening playoff round match, or that opening round of the playoffs matchup, if they're all healthy, right? If all of that talent on both sides of the football are ready to go. I mean,
it gets them. Well, look at the brackets, the way it's going to shape up. If Bucs win the NFC South. Let's presume it, okay? So they win the NFC South. They're not going to be higher than the 4th seed. They're going to be the bottom of the division winner. So they are going to host a wild card round game. I forget who, right? It's Cowboys, Giants. It kind of fluctuates who they would host So it's a tough game right out of the gate. After that, they're on the road. Potentially, if everybody holds serve, you're looking at a divisional playoff game at Philadelphia in the second week of the playoffs. This is going to be an absolute brutal road to the Super Bowl. If they could get healthy, get hot, and get going, what a story that would be if they can do that. Yeah. If they can do that. What are they, 6-6? I think 9-8 wins the division handily. So they've got to go 3-2 in their last 5 games. This is a difficult game, followed by another difficult game. You got Carolina coming here. They play at Atlanta. So they've got to find, I'm calling those wins.
Okay.
And so, so now you got to find a third win in there out of this group to finish 9-8.
And Bengals are tough.
The Bengals, and they're not only tough, but they are going in this direction.
Healthier too.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Absolutely.
And if it is the Cowboys, that of course being the team that we opened up the year against, so it would be Brady against the Cowboys again. We'll be paying very close attention on this program to the NFC East because of what's unfolding there with potentially 3, maybe 4 of those teams making it into the playoffs. Let's move on to our fantasy spotlight of the week. You guys know how this works. It's like a bingo card, except you get to pick the player that you just have that warm, fuzzy feeling about this week when it comes to your Tampa Bay Buccaneer offense. It's funny, we see Lenny from a fantasy outlook now. Fantasy owners, man, with Leonard Fournette and Rashad White healthy, it becomes very much splitting the carries in the backfield. So each one of them not as big of the fantasy play if one of them were taking the week off or happened to be on the injury report. So there's an interesting dynamic there. Mike Evans, you noted, Karen, hasn't scored since week 4. So their fantasy owners are thinking, when is there going to be that Mike Evans payoff? Chris Godwin starting to really get hot, and Julio Jones is suiting up now on a week-to-week basis and getting reps in. Cameron Brate, you were just noting on the injury report. So, would like to go first this week on your fantasy spotlight?
I went first last week, and I took Tom Brady last week.
Not a bad pick.
For the Monday game.
He produced.
Yeah,
he did just fine fantasy point-wise.
Even though most of it was all in the final 5.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Finish 1 point more than your opponent.
I'm gonna go with Chris Godwin. He's led the team in receiving yards the past 3 games, and 4 times total this season. I just think he's got more of a rapport, it seems like, there with Brady. He's getting more catches than Evans is, and for whatever reason that may be, I think it's going to continue.
Dan, what do you like?
Wow. I'm going to go off the board for me.
Off the board?
No, it's on that board. It's on your board.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was like, who else is there?
Well, yeah. I envision this being a difficult red zone game for the Bucs. And that leads us to Ryan Suckup, who this could be a 3 or 4 field goal day for Suckup and an extra point or 2. As well, whatever your league says for kickers, whatever the value is on field goals. Remember, he's not a long distance guy, but he's very accurate. He might get 3. This could be a 3 field goal day for Suckup.
Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Yeah,
I do.
I also think Brady's going to throw 50 passes.
He had 54 passes on Monday.
So, but this is, this run defense they're going up against is sick.
Tough.
And so this is going to beg for short passes. We're talking 4-yard chunks down the field. I just don't see long plays down the field until it opens up for them. He could throw that many passes, but I'm still going with Suckup.
Okay.
I'm going to play the odds game. I cannot see another week where Mike Evans does not find.
So you think the drought's going to be over? You think
this is the week?
It's going to break open this year, this game.
This is the week.
Okay.
I'm feeling.
That's like the deciding thing. You're like, does this no touchdowns drought continue, or is this it? If you keep saying it every single week, you pick him every week, and you're going to be right at some
eventually,
point.
I'm going to be right. But I'm going to hit the chimes sound effects. We're just going to will this into existence.
That was very zen.
Yeah. We're going to get some fairy dust on Mike Evans and make that happen. We will see. We will see. I love the picks. I love the analysis. Love being here with you both. Our Bucs insiders, Karen Loftus, Dan Lucas, here on Bucs Bonus on WFLA Now, powered by 1-800-ASK-GARY. One more time, your Week 14 preview. The Buccaneers against the San Francisco 49ers, 4:25 kickoff. That will be on Fox this week. The 49ers entering as a field goal and half-point favorite against your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Be sure to follow Dan and Karen on social media. Be sure to listen to us as well, not just on YouTube, WFLA.com, but also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And follow Dan and Karen's reports on WFLA News Channel 8, your official Bucs station, as they give you inside access to all things Buccaneers. We appreciate everybody joining us here on WFLA Now. All of your Bucs content, you can find it on WFLA.com. For Dan and Karen, I'm JB. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. And as always, go Bucs.